It's a battle between 1-1 teams when the Steelers visit the Pats this Sunday. He's Chris Carter. I'm Nick Cattles. And this is a crossover edition of Locked On Patriots and Locked On Steelers.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's happening? I'm your host of Locked On Patriots, Nick Cattles, and today I'm joined by the host of Locked On Steelers, Chris Carter, for the latest edition of our Locked On crossovers during this 2025 NFL season. And on this week's crossover show, we'll give you the key matchups to focus on during the game. We'll also tell you how each team can walk away 2-1 with our three keys to the game on Sunday. But first, it's all about the city's headlines heading into Sunday. We appreciate you joining the show, making us your first listen, and for being an everydayer. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as you watch. Locked On Patriots, Locked On Steelers podcasts, proud partners of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this crossover Thursday is presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Chris, first time I get to do this with you, man. Very happy to do it. How you doing and how you feeling?
Feeling excited as always. Any week I get to cover football is a good week in my books. So it's a pretty exciting time. Both these teams come into this game with high hopes. Both these teams have had their ups and their downs. But certainly it's going to be interesting with some matchups, and potentially we get some young stars back on the defensive side of both sides of the ball. We'll talk about Christian Gonzalez in a sec, but the Steelers get Drake Harmon back at practice. He was their first round pick out of Oregon, their defensive tackle. Now, personally, and I explained this in a short on our YouTube page for Locked On Steelers, I don't think Drake Harmon's going to play in this game, but it's a very good sign that he's practicing this week, even albeit in a limited capacity on Wednesday. The Steelers' run defense has been rough. He was brought here to be a big force for the Steelers up the middle, and they've needed answers, and without him, they've been struggling with some of the backups that they've been floating in there. I don't think he plays this game, but if he's at least back for the Ireland game against the Vikings the week after, that could be huge for the Steelers in getting him back. What's the word on Christian Gonzalez?
Well, yeah, Christian Gonzalez finally back at practice today, and on as we record this on Wednesday night, he was back at practice on Wednesday, and he was limited. He was limited today, but he has not practiced in about 6 weeks, so it is certainly a step forward. And, of course, you caught up with DK Metcalf in the locker room today and asked him about Gonzalez.
When you study him on tape, what does Christian Gonzalez do that you got to prepare for to have a good Sunday?
I mean, a great young player. He has a size that a lot of teams wanted. Going against a big receiver, in this league. So he definitely has a size advantage. He's smart, and he's a tough kid to go against.
Now, Chris, here's the thing. I mean, this defense has been struggling through the first 2 weeks. It's been pretty bad. I don't think Christian Gonzalez is going to be the end-all, be-all. If he plays on Sunday, that's still an unknown. But if he's out there, I don't think he's a magic elixir. The defense has been bad. Linebacker has been terrible. Robert Spillane, Christian Ellis, not only missed tackles, but also terrible in coverage. And for Steelers fans, this weekend might be interesting because not only was Gonzalez back at practice but limited, so was K'Lavon Chaisson, so was Carlton Davis, so was Harold Landry, so was Marte Mapu. Christian Barmore was not at practice, or at least he was limited, but it's not injury related. That goes back to the blood clots last year. They've been managing him. So this defense has been shook from day one of this season, and they're trying to right the ship. Gonzalez could help, but they still got some major issues, Chris.
They do, but hey, I think Steelers fans will be quick to tell you, hey, no, don't worry. The Steelers got their own defensive issues. You look at the overall stats. The Patriots, sure, they ranked 20th in 47 points allowed. The Steelers ranked 29th in 63 points allowed. The Patriots, sure, they ranked 25th in 747 yards allowed. The Steelers ranked 29th in 789 yards allowed. And for the Steelers, they're missing guys too, like Joey Porter Jr. still not practicing. Alex Highsmith hurt right now. He's not practicing. They've been missing Derek Harmon. Deshaun Elliott, their safety's been out, and they've been dealing with other injuries here and there. They've been having things, but this is still supposed to be the defense that was going to be a top 5 unit in the NFL this year. What we heard all throughout training camp when we talked to these guys, And that's what the Steelers are hoping that they can eventually get this unit to being. The last 3 years, they were a top 10 unit. And that's been a big thing for the Steelers. I don't think it's been particularly because of their stars. I think it's been more so because they're trying some very new approaches to how they want to play defense with this current group. And there's a lot of new faces. And meanwhile, there's not a lot of new faces. There's a lot of injuries. And so trying to get that cohesion and that chemistry to be smooth but aggressive at the same time hasn't been easy for them. And it's going to be another challenge with the Patriots coming up this week. And it's always hard winning in Foxborough.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I hear you talk about the Steelers defense. It feels the same way with the Patriots to a point, not only the overall stats, but, week 1 against the Raiders, they came out very aggressive. They blitzed a ton. Week 2, they hardly blitzed Miami at all. Mike Vrabel is a game plan defense kind of head coach. So I don't know what they are going to do this Sunday against the Steelers. They could blitz a lot. They might lay back. I'm not sure. But I do know the Patriots offensively, the top story is, can they follow what they did last weekend up against the Steelers? Because we know, Chris, that the Dolphins defense is easily one of the worst defenses in football. And that was great news for the Patriots last Sunday. Drake Maye, I think, had his best NFL game last weekend. And now the question is, can he follow it up? What does he look like, in week 3? Can you give you back-to-back really good weeks, or will he have a hiccup because he's still young? Will he have those bumps in the road? And I'm fascinated. I don't know about you, but I was watching the Steelers game against the Seahawks, and I am fascinated to see what the Steelers do against Drake Maye, because I know the Steelers like to blitz. They've blitzed a ton this year so far. That could be playing with a little bit of fire with Maye's ability to, run and extend plays and get out of that pocket. So offensively, can Maye follow up? How about you offensively? I know Aaron Rodgers has been talking about Jaylen Warren, but what are you looking for offensively as the top story this weekend from the Steelers' point of view?
Well, that's just it. One thing I asked Aaron Rodgers, I noted in a film study I did for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, how the Seahawks, in week 1, Aaron Rodgers threw 3 touchdown passes off of play action, because the Jets in week 1 were biting up on play action, because last year the Steelers loved to run the football, even when it didn't work. And so they were saying, we're not going to let them run the ball. And so Aaron Rodgers took advantage of it, threw 3 touchdowns on play action passes, was a big part of their offense. This week against the Seahawks, they couldn't get the play action going because the Seahawks just said, go ahead, run it.
Yeah.
Please do it. And then they didn't bite. And so Aaron Rodgers had to work around without the play action. And so I asked Aaron Rodgers in the Steelers locker room on Wednesday, and I said, hey, we talked about this after the game. You noted they're too high shell zone coverage. If the Patriots come out, what do you guys have to do that? And he says, run the football. That's the way. When teams are in too high shells, I have to recognize it, and we have to check into it and get the ball to one of our guys, block well, and get yards. And he said that's the way how you beat things. And that's where I think this Steelers offense is really trying to be. Aaron Rodgers is not coming to the Steelers to be prime 4-time MVP Aaron Rodgers. He's coming in to be the conductor that says, hey, we're a balanced offense. We're going to run the ball, balance that with a good passing attack, do those well, and then they play off of each other. And then that way, you're not asking DK Metcalf to beat double teams all the time. You're not asking Jaylen Warren to run into crowded boxes. You're catching teams where they're not. And that's what I think the Steelers want to do. Ultimately, it'll be up to the Steelers to see how do the Patriots come out and then counter it and try to find when are they soft against the run, when are they aggressive, and when can they use that to their advantage to use play action.
All right, so those are some of the biggest stories that we're looking at this week, getting ready for this game, again, between two teams that are 500 right now, 1-1. This game will be at Gillette, Pittsburgh, traveling to New England. Coming up, Chris and I will give you the marquee matchups that will decide this game on Sunday. It's a Locked On Patriots and Steelers crossover, and we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's talk about Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes, sweat, all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. Stunning detail that will bring you back to the two dynastic runs in New England. Oh, man, the good times. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Here's something that's also really cool. All-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, so you can drive with confidence through almost any season. And, of course, we know how important that is up in the Northeast. Like our players, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, so I'm watching the game against the Seahawks, as I mentioned, Chris, and Chris Carter with you, and Nick Cattle's with you here doing the crossover Patriots-Steelers style as we get ready for Sunday's game. And obviously, Rodgers and Metcalf trying to get it going. Vrabel and the defensive staff trying to figure things out on their side of the football as well. To you, what is one of the marquee matchups in this game on Sunday?
Well, to me, it's going to be about things that the Patriots try to capitalize on that the Steelers have not done well. And I think, we talked about it briefly in the last segment. The Steelers, Aaron Rodgers said, we have to run the ball. Well, the Patriots have the third best rushing defense in the NFL. This would be a heck of a week for that to chime in. Now, Jaylen Warren isn't the issue for the Steelers run game. He's very talented. He had a 65-yard catch and run the other day where he made like 4 guys miss in the Seahawks defense.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous play.
Jaylen Warren is a very good player, and they're very confident in him as their feature back for right now, while they develop Caleb Johnson as a rookie and Kenneth Gainwell sort of their veteran third down guy / extra guy they like to use in the passing game. But I think the big thing is really the offensive line versus this Patriots front, because the Steelers' offensive line is still very young. Broderick Jones, though, in his third year, is getting his third game starting at left tackle. Troy Fautanu in his second year, getting his third game starting at right tackle. He missed all of last season with an injury. Zach Frazier, your second year starting center. Mason McCormick, your second year starting right guard. This is a group that's still figuring each other out, and that's where I think that this is going to be a big matchup going against this Patriots team's Tonga, Milton Williams, who's just been a beast and a heck of a signing for the Patriots to start this year, Christian Barmore, and then the linebacker Spillane, who the Steelers are very familiar with, a guy that hits hard and plays fast. They have to be able to get these guys off the ball. If they're able to I'm not saying dominate the run game, but if they can get it to the point where when they're running the ball, if the Patriots go in 2 high shells and the Steelers can run the ball and get 4 yards a pop on those types of plays, that's going to force the Patriots eventually into a situation where, okay, we're going to have to bring some guy down to help at some point. And if you can do that and just establish that balance, then more of the play action will help. Then you can catch Spillane and Landry and Ellis. You can catch those guys maybe taking a couple steps forward as they wait for the run, and then they try to back up, and then you're hitting Pat Frymuth over the middle or DK Metcalf on a slant. That's something that has to happen. But for the play action to work, the run game has to be a real threat. There's no doubt in my mind. I respect Mike Vrabel a ton. There's no doubt in my mind that he's looking and he's saying, make them prove to us that they can run the ball before we start falling for that.
I talked about the defense being bad. It's been bad, but that's mostly been a linebacker secondary issue. The defensive line has played better. It's been the better of the 3 levels by far. You mentioned Milton Williams. He's been very good the first 2 weeks. Christian Barmore still knocking off some of that rust from last year. We was out for most of the season with the blood clots. Harold Landry looks like the Harold Landry of old. He's got that quick first step back, looks more comfortable in this defensive scheme than he did last year in Tennessee. Kayvon Chason has done a pretty decent job as well. And you mentioned the guy who's kind of the gem. It's Khyiris Tonga. He was brought in to maybe be a run stopper, but he's been really good at pressuring the quarterback through camp and even in the first 2 games. His pass rush win rate is pretty impressive for a guy who's not known as a pass rush interior defensive lineman. So, they've done a good job. It is interesting. They've had issues from time to time. In the first half against Miami, they got gashed against the run, but in the second half, they shut it down. And one guy I do wonder if you'll see more of on Sunday is Anthony Jennings. He played only 11 snaps against Miami, but I'll tell you, Chris, when you look at that game in Miami, he started the second half on the edge, and he single-handedly came up with 2 to 3 run stops right away, and it just kind of changed the tone of that defense and that defensive front against the run. I'd also say you look at last week, which was fascinating. In the first 3 quarters, Chris, the Patriots got no pass rush on Tua Tagovailoa. That they could not touch him. I think their pressure rate was 14%, but in the fourth quarter, their pressure rate was 66%. they dominated that Miami front in the fourth quarter, which is fascinating because they're down in Miami. They've got the heat, and you would think the better conditioned team would be the Dolphins, but it felt like in the trenches, it was actually the Patriots. Now, for me, top matchup, the guy I'm watching is Jaylen Warren. You brought him up.
Yeah.
That 65-yard catch and run against the Seahawks was spectacular. He made, I don't know, it felt like he made 20 dudes miss on that one play. And I look back and I see a guy who caught 61 passes in 2023. The Patriots have had issues against running backs that can catch the football, that are dangerous in the open field. They had a terrible time against Devon Achane last week in Miami. Spillane missed at least 2 or 3 tackles. Ellis missed tackles. So I'm looking at Jaylen Warren as somebody who could get loose for the Steelers offense this weekend.
And the Steelers wouldn't mind that, right? Like, they want the run game to work, but however they get Jaylen Warren loose, they'll take it. And Kenneth Gainwell isn't someone to sneeze at there either. I say that as I say give 3 sneezes here on camera. But Kenneth Gainwell, it's going to be tricky how they use him, because there were a couple of plays where he was really in great position as a receiving back that kind of didn't just turn into anything last week. One was on a 3rd and 2 early where they started him in the backfield. They motioned him out. They will motion him into the slot a lot and then say, what are you going to do? You want to put a linebacker out there with him? Or you want to put a corner out there? Could you put a corner over there? You might run into some problems somewhere else. And they had him run a quick out. Now, on the play, there was quick pressure that was Troy Fautano was beaten, and so Aaron Rodgers had to throw the pass away. But Kenneth Gainwell cleanly beats his guy for an out and is open beyond the sticks. Then on another play in the red zone, it was the touchdown pass to DK Metcalf. But if you look at the all-22, Kenneth Gainwell, one-on-one with his guy, runs a Texas route, cooks his man, and is just like walking to the end zone. Now, Metcalf scores, so that doesn't really matter. But he is a receiving threat, and that's something I saw all training camp when I was covering the Steelers, was they want Kenneth Gainwell in because he can line up in the backfield and do veteran things, pick up blitzes, and just catch a quick pass off the backfield. But they love motioning him out and getting him into routes and having him match up against linebackers. So it is definitely in my brain that Arthur Smith, as an offensive coordinator, is saying, hey, let's get these linebackers in space. Let's get them on Kenneth. Let's get them on Jaylen. And let's let Aaron Rodgers decide what he wants to do, because there's a lot of trust in him in finding those mismatches.
And I think that would be the nightmare for this Patriots defense, is if they start getting those one-on-ones against the running backs. They have not been good in that kind of a situation. I wonder if Vrabel will try to react to that. Will they actually play more corners on passing downs? We'll see, because the linebackers have been so bad. And you brought up Arthur Smith. Interesting. Obviously, we have the relationship between Smith and Vrabel. They know each other very well, and they probably have a very good idea as to what the other guy wants to do on Sunday. And now offensively, I want to ask you about the Steelers defense, because to me, you're looking at Morgan Moses, who's banged up. He left the game. He left the locker room last Sunday with a walking boot. He was limited in practice today. I would imagine he's going to try to gut it out. I don't know if he's going to be able to go full-time on Sunday. And if not, the Patriots have 7th-round pick from this past draft just a few months ago, Marcus Bryant, who is more of a raw project guy. He would be the next guy up if Moses can't move around. And I'm just wondering, I've seen some people talking about TJ Watt not getting off to the greatest of starts this season, but defensively, what are you looking at as far as the marquee matchup and how the Steelers could attack this Patriots offense?
Well, as far as TJ Watt, I say this a lot on my show, Watt is impacting plays simply because the first 2 teams, the Jets and the Seahawks, their entire plan was don't let him beat us. Keep him away. There was a play where Jack Sawyer, a 4th-round rookie out of Ohio State for the Steelers, got his first sack of his career. But when you watch the replay, Jack Sawyer walks to the quarterback. Meanwhile, there are 3 Seahawks blockers, a tackle, a tight end, and a fullback, all just right on Watt. And the funny thing is Watt got past all of them, and if Sawyer doesn't get the sack, Watt's getting it. And so TJ Watt is still a very good player. He doesn't have a sack for his first 2 games, and it's now 6 straight games that he hasn't registered a sack. So a lot of people are hitting the panic button in Pittsburgh. I'm not. I still see him doing a lot of the very good things that he normally does. But I do think that a lot of teams have a playbook as far as, hey, we need quick passing. We need a good run game. And when we run, we're running it the other way. We're taking it the other direction. Don't run it to the right, run it to the left and keep it away from TJ Watt. And that's where I think the Steelers are going to need to counter, is that they need their front to take advantage of this Patriots front. And it hasn't happened yet. Cam Hayward is still with the Steelers. He's still playing well. He hasn't dominated yet, but he's been a good player. But again, no Derek Harmon. That's been hurtful to the Steelers. Keanu Benton hasn't played well. In fact, I think he's actually played very, very poorly in his first 2 outings. He's dealing with some sort of an elbow injury. We're waiting to see if there's any more designation on that. Y.A. Black, a 5th-round rookie out of Iowa, has been good in spurts, but he has also kind of had some bad moments where he's gotten pushed around. The Steelers need to find a way to stuff the run on defense, because if they do that, they are confident that if they can get the Patriots in 3rd and longs and more predictable situations, that they can win those. Now, granted, they need to win those, because they did that a few times at the Seahawks and still came up short. There was a 3rd and 9 on the Seahawks' final touchdown drive of the game, where the Steelers had everything dialed up. They called up the right blitz. Patrick Queen had Sam Darnold dead to rights. Sam Darnold spins out of the pocket, and Queen missed him, and that allowed for a completion, big gain, and they were able to keep a drive alive that ultimately sealed the game. That's what the Steelers have to do in this game. When they get those opportunities, they have to pounce. And whether it's a blitz, and they are the 4th highest blitz rate in the NFL right now, whether it's a blitz, whether it's max coverage, you're trying to fool May into a mistake, you have to find a way to win. You've invested too much into this defense not to. And I think one of the main things that's going to be really interesting is wherever Jalen Ramsey lines up, how aggressive do the Steelers let him be? Because he has been playing a sort of off coverage these first 2 games, where it worked week 1, but week 2, the Seahawks were saying, okay, you want to just play trail technique on our guys? We're going to trust that you're going to allow them to have inside leverage, and that we can throw a ball that you can't get to. And that happened several times. He allowed 9 catches on 11 targets last Sunday against the Seahawks. And I have to wonder, and looking at that tape, will the Steelers switch up how they do that? Because on several of those plays that turned into 3rd down conversions, or in one, he was even a touchdown, if Jalen Ramsey just lines up in a natural form, hey, we're in man coverage, I'm taking inside leverage. I'm making sure that I'm staying in front of you. If you're running a crossing pattern, you're going to have to find a way to get around me. But instead of him conceding it and thinking, okay, I'm going to play trail technique so good, I'm going to jump this pass. But if he takes that away, it forces quarterbacks to hold on to the ball more. And there were several times where if Sam Darnold just had to hold on to the ball for not even a second more, TJ Watt would have had a sack. There were times Patrick Queen would have had a sack. There was times other guys, there were about like 4 or 5 sacks left on the board because of those opportunities. And so that's where I think the Steelers need to see more here. And that's what I'm going to be curious. How does that match up? Jalen Ramsey has also been lining up everywhere. He's not just lining up in the slot or just in the outside. He's playing a little bit safety. He's doing that less without Joey Porter Jr. But does he take on Stephon Diggs in this game? Do they say, hey, just take him away? We'll have Darius Slay and everyone else worry about Mac Hollins and everyone else. That's going to be a big thing for me. It's going to be, where does Jalen Ramsey line up, and how do the Steelers let him play in this game, considering the times that the Seahawks were able to catch him kind of trying to play a little bit of off coverage.
It's going to be a fascinating matchup for sure, with plenty of marquee matchups. I know Drake Maye has faced, it's like over 80% zone defenses through the first 2 weeks. You wonder if that's going to impact the Steelers' game plan or not. So a lot to look forward to on Sunday. And coming up next, we'll give you our 3 keys that can turn this game on its head. That's next. We continue with today's crossover episode of Locked On Patriots and Locked On Steelers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-hour energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients, and with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. That's right, I said 0 crashes. What you love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. You can reach for your favorite flavor, whatever that is, because it's refreshing and gives you that quick lift before a busy day. You can try one of the new flavors because there are so many, and honestly, you could find that perfect one to try next if you like the new one that you just tried. And you love how fast it kicks in, sugar-free, so you don't have to worry about crashing later on. Nobody wants to crash. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-hour energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. And with football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. You play Prize Picks. It's such a fun way to stay locked in for the season. It's quick. It's easy. Honestly, it could be your favorite way to follow along with the football on a Sunday. And you can check projections like Josh Allen, more or less, passing yards, Saquon Barkley, more or less, rushing touchdowns. And you can even check in on Prize Picks max discounts. Patrick Mahomes coming up this Sunday, September 21st, over a half a passing yard. I know KC's offense is struggling, but you got to get in on that. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKDOWNNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKDOWNNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, so a little peek behind the curtain here. Last night I was texting with Chris, and I said, I don't like doing predictions so early in the week. I like to hold my prediction until Friday. And Chris said, right, I agree with you, my man. And so we're going to sit on the predictions until our next episodes. So you want to wait for that. But let's get to quickly. We got to run through these a little bit, Chris. Let's get to 3 keys. What is your first key for the Steelers on Sunday?
They have to stop the run. They cannot let TreVeyon Henderson take over this game and make things easier for Drake Maye. If they do, it's going to put this game in such a crazy mode, and they're going to be at risk for allowing another 3 touchdown plus performance. The Steelers cannot afford to let that happen. By all means, stuff the run. And I mean, still respect Drake Maye. This isn't saying, oh, man, if they stuff the run, Drake Maye's done and he can't do anything. But you cannot allow any quarterback in today's NFL the chance of having that balanced offense where the run game is just getting chunks. Like last week, you're going to look at the overall numbers and say, oh, well, they did stuff the run sometimes, but a good bit of those was because they stopped Zach Charbonnet for the Seahawks for less than a yard per carry, but then they allowed Kenneth Walker to run like 8 yards per carry. They cannot allow Henderson or whoever on the Patriots roster to run for anything like that. They got to keep this in a game where the run game isn't such a reliable factor, whether it's Henderson or Stevenson or whoever. Don't allow them to take over. That's key number 1 for the Steelers. What's key number 1 for the Pats?
Yeah, handle the blitz. Handle the blitz. I know Pittsburgh's aggressive. They love to send their linebackers, Queen and her big blitz a number of times when I was watching that Seattle game. So they've got to make sure that they handle the blitz. Pittsburgh's top 5 in the NFL in blitz rate, 45.7% blitz rate last week against Seattle and Sam Darnold. And Drake Maye's got to be in command. He's got to make sure that he knows exactly what to expect and when to expect it, point out the protections to his guys. A clean pocket is great news for Drake Maye, so they have to handle the pressure of the Pittsburgh Steelers. What's your second key, Chris?
Second key is establish that balance on offense. We talked about it earlier in the show, but Aaron Rodgers said, we got to run the ball when we see those 2 high shells. They have to put the fear of the run actually hurting them into the Patriots defense. If they do, then all of a sudden you'll see the middle part of the field open up a little bit more. The Steelers don't have, 3 prime wide receivers that are like, they don't have, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins where they can just say, hey, we're rolling out these guys. We don't care what coverage you're in. We're just going to throw it up to them and they're going to beat you. DK Metcalf is a very good wide receiver and they trust that he's going to win a lot of his one-on-ones. But Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, Scotty Miller, even the Titans, Pat Freiermuth, Johnny Smith, they're all good players, but they want to create more easier pockets for Aaron Rodgers to not have to throw as many pinpoint super passes that he can still throw, and he still does put passes on the money, but they want to create those easier spaces, and that's what Arthur Smith is really trying to do with this offense. So get that run game going so that there can be a balance, and then if you have that balance, it makes the offense that much more fluid. What's key number 2 for the Patriots?
Yeah, they got to limit the yards after the contact. They got to limit yards after the catch. The missed tackles have been a huge issue for this defense. DK Metcalf can hurt you in that category. Jaylen Warren can hurt you in that category. Jonnu Smith can even hurt you a little bit in that category if they get the football to Jonnu on Sunday. So they're just going to make sure that you wrap up. Don't give up an extra 5, 6 yards, 10 yards. Don't let a 15-yard gain turn into a 25-yard gain. The Patriots have had issues with these explosive plays for the first 2 weeks. They've got to make sure they limit the yak. Your third and final key, Chris.
don't allow the explosive plays to control this game. Right now, the Steelers are allowing the highest rate of explosive plays in the NFL through 2 weeks, and that is a huge part of this. And this kind of plays into stuffing the runs that balance doesn't be there for the Patriots. But when they do make a play, tackle the guy. Last week, Kenneth Walker gets the ball in 3rd and goal from the 19, and they just pitch it out to him thinking, oh, he'll just get a couple yards, set up a nice field goal. He runs it in for a touchdown. They can't allow moments like that where they have everything lined up, they have things ready to go, but someone takes a bad angle, someone just doesn't finish the play, and then all of a sudden there's a big gap in the defense or someone stumbles at the wrong point. You gotta limit those big plays. You take those big plays away, and then you force the Patriots to earn every single 3rd down conversion, 1st down, moving the ball, and then they work their way into the red zone. It's like, hey, you know what? If you hit on 9-10 really good plays in a row, good for you. But the Steelers have to play a way that's going to force you to do that time in and time out. And with anybody, it's tough. With younger quarterbacks, it's also tough. We got to be a key, though. Limit the explosive plays so that you're not giving away easier points to the Patriots. What's key number 3 for the Pats?
Well, that sounded a lot of that sounded familiar to me. What you just went through with all of the missed tackles and the bad angles, and just clean up the game. A clean operation. One of my surprises here is that through the first 2 weeks, I expected Mike Vrabel's team to be more disciplined. The Patriots have 21 penalties this season, tied for the 2nd most in the NFL. They had 12 last week in Miami. Clean up the penalties. You have a clean game, and that should help you on both sides of the football and on special teams. They've had a couple of penalties on special teams as well. So clean it up, clean up the penalties. All right, that wraps up this crossover edition of Locked On Patriots and Steelers. Thank you for making us your first listen and for being an everydayer. Don't forget to throw a comment in on the YouTube channel. Hit that like button. And, of course, don't forget to subscribe as well. For your second listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast with Tyler the Madman Rowland and Tony Wiggins. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day. Chris and I will see all of you tomorrow.